get into my video because I ran out of time, unfortunately, Alan. But great to have you along. You've been a big part of this show over the last year as well.
Well, I typically don't show up in videos. It's some vampire thing that people point cameras at me and I just don't show up. I was left out of my high school yearbook too, so I'm used to it. A happy anniversary. I'm not a happy birthday kind of guy, but happy anniversary. And I suspect that 5 years from now we'll say, "You remember that first anniversary show we had?" And look how crude it was back then, and look how sophisticated we are now. If coming from where you were a year ago to where we are now is any indication, it's kind of like the first Star Trek movie versus Star Trek 4. You had no place to go but up.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for your kind comments, and yeah, I hope we do improve, because that means we're learning all the time, and that's what it's all about. Greetings, Martin.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Charles. I can't believe it's been a year. It's just craziness where the time's gone. It's gone so quickly from when we first came up with the idea of doing this. And as for sophistication, I can't even spell that word, so there's no chance of me up in the game. I'm afraid this is my limit. I've peaked, so the rest of you need to keep the show going in the upward trajectory. Anyway, back to you, Giles.
Jon, greetings.
Greetings and good evening. Congratulations, Walters. Yeah, a year. A year since you and Martin and Merle tricked me into participating in the show for the first time. I had this idea that I would never get in front of the camera, and suddenly I was in front of the camera and live on the internet, even more so. So, yeah, you guys are evil.
Hang on a minute, you tricked me on, if I remember rightly. Don't pull that card.
I just returned the favor.
Well, this show only works because of everybody who takes part in it, and it's fantastic that we're still going up here, and that more people are beginning to join in as well, which is great news, and we hope it will continue that way. But let's next say hello to Scott. Greetings. You've been with us for a while.
Yeah, hi guys. Nice to see you all again. Normally, I try to join when I can, but a lot of times they just have meetings at noon, so it's either eat lunch and watch this or support one of their meetings, and I think I'd rather eat lunch and watch this. So happy 1 year anniversary, and I'm glad to be back.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy watching us. And Tom Sinclair, what can we say? Tom Sinclair is the sponsor of this program from fairly early days on. He's disappeared. Oh no, he hasn't. He's still there. Somebody turned their video off and he moved. Greetings, Tom. It's great to have you on the show, and thank you for being so supportive of it.
Hi guys. I tell you what, I am. Can you hear me? Is this thing on?
Yep.
Okay, just checking. I am so delighted to be a part of the 1 year anniversary of World of Live Streaming. I mean, you guys have taken my little concept and just exploded it, and I love it. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I can't always watch the show live, but I always catch up after the fact. And to see the community that's formed around this, that's probably the most gratifying thing. I mean, to look out and to see, Dan and Dave and Martin and Kenny and Alan and Jan and Merle and Scott and of course Giles and others. Oh yeah, and Tommy, of course. Well, I thought Tommy was out watching women's volleyball. But just to see the community that you guys have formed and the ripple effect of that community that's going out through the internet of people that are looking to you guys for advice and counsel and just just great things. I just can't be more impressed with the way this show has gone and grown and taken on its own life and personality. That's probably the neatest thing about it. And I applaud all of you guys for all of that, and am glad to have had just a small part in it. Although I get blamed for everything that goes wrong, but nevertheless, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So well done, well done.
Thank you, Tom. And you get blamed for everything that goes right as well. This show actually would never have happened, I don't think, had it not been for you being on the air, which is why it's so important that you are here tonight. So thank you for being here, and that's really great.
Merle would have done it. Merle would have gotten something started. Yeah.
It's certainly interesting to think whether we would or not. I mean, certainly it was watching your show that made me want to give this a go. And
That's right. If that idiot can do it, anybody can do it. That's right. That's the inspiration that I'm trying to get throughout the whole world. Yes, indeed. Yep.
So, I mean, I know a number of us here bought vMix to use it to record rather than actually do live stream. And there you go. It's amazing, what you've achieved over the years that you've been doing it, and the inspiration that you've given other people. I mean, a lot of these people are here because you're here as well. So we'd like to thank you for that, and thank you for sponsoring this show as well. That's been very much appreciated and very much helped us to get it going. So thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you,
Giles. There's someone else that indirectly, I think, contributed to this rather significantly, and that was Gerard when he set up StreamCon. And that's where I got a chance to meet with Dave and with Kenny and some other people. And that actually helped solidify some of these rather amorphous relationships. And it's like saying, well, okay, that's probably where I first heard of world of live streaming, probably from Dave. And so getting a bunch of live streamers together physically in one place was a bit of a watershed moment. And then it was shortly after that you started talking about doing Streamfest. So it's been an interesting interplay between in-person meetings and online relationships. And I know that Tom was very instrumental in helping Gerard pull together StreamCon, but I think that really had a good bootstrapping effect for propelling World of Live Streaming forward.
I agree with that, and it certainly helped us to bring Streamfest Live together as well, which is something we will no doubt talk about in a bit. There's also somebody else in this room who's had a very significant input into how we do things, and that is Dan Slider. And I'm very pleased that you were able to make it this evening, Dan. We started producing a thing called the Producer Quick Starter Kit, and Dan was very quickly on board with that and fully behind it. And I'm pleased to say that as of today, you can download version 1.03 from our download page on the website. So if you go to stepbackintime.tv, so it's our little gift to the audience if you like to use the Producer Quick Starter Kit. And thank you so much to Dan, who provided us with X keys to actually develop the kit. Yeah, brilliant, Dan. We couldn't have done that without your support. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're entirely welcome. That was very little that I had to do to help you guys, give you a little nudge with a piece of hardware, but you put a lot of work into it, and I know the guys here in the group have been helping you test it, and if we can do that little bit to make it easier for somebody to start, then everybody benefits, I think.
Dan, you don't realize the input you had with the nose hair pullers. I mean, that's just opened up worlds for me. You still haven't got any bigger bumper stickers, but the nose hair pullers are phenomenal.
Excellent. Right. Well, We're going to have a little break from the chat room for a moment, but when we come back, if you've got any memories of the first time you appeared on the show, or any kind of memories of things that happened that we can talk about, then please do come in with those. But first, I think it's time for the next section, which my gramophone record will now introduce. And now it's time for the news with Mo.
All right, this is the news in flash for the world of live streaming. And by now, I'm sure that everyone knows that it is our anniversary. And in light of celebrating 1 year, I'd like to play a short clip. And first of all, though, let me tell you that we've gone through some changes. And one of those is that when we first started this thing, or not, I say we, but when Giles named this show, it was This and That. So I'll take you back to when it was This and That. And I really believe that Giles showed how cool vMix can really be on this first show. So with that, I will bring it to you.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of This and That. Our fun time messing around with vMix, playtime, whatever you want to call it. With me here today is Mo. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mo.
Yeah, my name is Merle Dixon, and I am from the state of Indiana in the United States.
This is George Price. I'm from Pendleton, Indiana, United States.
And I am John from Malmö in Sweden.
Unfortunately, we've lost John's video temporarily, but yeah, folks, you heard that right. We're from all over the place. So I'm sitting here in the UK, a whole 6,000 miles apart from Mo, who is actually sitting next to me here. And this is being done by the wonders of vMix, which is the most amazing piece of software. We keep surprising ourselves with it. I think it would be fair to say, wouldn't you, Mo?
Absolutely. The technology is just superb.
Absolutely amazing. And what do you reckon, George?
I tell you what, there's so many things that you can do with vMix, and they're all time adding different functionalities to vMix, and this is one thing you can do. You need to get John's camera back.
Yes.
What happened to his camera, but
there he is.
There he is.
Hello to John in Sweden.
Magic.
Yeah, well, it's only my video that seems to be acting up. So my audio is working fine.
That's most unfortunate. I'll tell you what this reminds me of. Have you ever watched the Eurovision Song Contest? It's like, come in, Sweden. Isn't it amazing, though, that we're just sort of basically sitting in our offices or houses all around the world, we're all on our own, just making things happen on our own bits of computer, and we're doing this. I mean, 50 years ago, it was amazing if a broadcast television organization could achieve this effect, but we're actually doing it now just with a desktop PC. I'm absolutely stunned.
Well, George, 50 years ago, you were lucky if you could make a phone call across the street.
Yeah, be on a party line, everybody be on the same line. But no, this is really a cool thing that you're seeing now with this broadcast being handled completely by Giles, and he's over in across the pond in England or UK, and he's handling this whole broadcast from there.
Yeah, that's right. That's something we've not really sort of pointed out before, is it? That, Well, not only are we doing remote production, we've got so that as George just said, I'm actually doing the switching here in the UK and recording this.
And that was the first 3.5 minutes of what has been a wonderful year. That was from episode 001. And I thought for the first episode that Giles really made us look good. Back to you, Giles.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's amazing how much we've all improved since then, isn't it? Little less wooden, possibly. Speaking of myself, of course. Yeah, amazing. And vMix still never ceases to amaze us, does it? It's an incredible piece of software. So thank you for doing the news, Mel. So does anybody remember anything? I mean, let's talk to Jon, because you were actually there. What do you really remember of that?
Oh, yes, I remember. That was a bit painful to watch.
Yeah, you're right.
I guess it's safe to say that a lot has changed, if not even improved since then, from camera quality to, more importantly, audio quality. And I guess I mean, in the beginning we played around a lot with virtual studios and as you saw, putting multiple people from different locations into the same virtual scene and stuff like that. So I guess that we have matured a bit as well, modernized even, and for the most part, most of us will connect to the show every Monday and have everything running from the start. I mean, it's pretty rare that we are goofing around with audio issues and video issues now. So yeah, a lot has changed.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I still forget to turn my audio on though sometimes. I really need to go and get Martin Sinclair's Martin Kay's no audio meter. The Tom Sinclair commemorative one is timed out. You can't use it anymore. But I always liked the Tom Sinclair one. What do you got to say about that, Tom?
Well, it's always an honor to have something named after you, like a bridge or a hospital or a timed out app, I guess. That'll work too.
It's all good stuff, isn't it? And it's so unfortunate when it happens. And I mean, it's happened to us all. Let's be honest. We've all forgotten to switch our audio on at some point or another. Me more times than I care to admit. And that app of Martin Kay's is really the answer to it, isn't it? But do any of us ever run it? Do you ever run it, Tom? No.
No,
I've to go and download it. Yeah,
it's Giles. It's one of those things where I've tried to fix it in my workflow.
Big capital letters, no audio.
Actually, at one point, I decided to never let that happen to me again, and I made a small script that would run all the time in the background on my computer and keep an eye on the running processes. And whenever vMix were running, it would automatically launch Martin's program, and then hook it up on the output. But then I, at one point, made a parallel installation of Windows dedicated for streaming, and I never got around to move my little script over. And of course, I keep forgetting to turn on the audio now. So, I guess we need something that can actually launch Martin's tools automatically with vMix. Some sort of plugin. What do you reckon, Giles?
Well, I don't know, Martin. Is that the next project?
I don't know. I mean, I wonder whether at some point they might build something like that into vMix itself. I know that they continually have got so many ideas. That's one of the amazing things with vMix. They're never short of ideas. I mean, Tim was telling me at IBC how he's got this whiteboard and it's just crammed full of notes of things, and they're constantly juggling them around and deciding which thing they're going to do next. But, you know, it's not like people who run out of ideas and think, oh, we're done now, that'll do. You know, they are just constantly aware of all the multiple things that they could do, and it's just a matter of time, really.
Yeah, I think vMix themselves deserve a massive round of applause for all the things that they've supported over the years that we've all asked for, and at the price point as well. It's just unbelievable. And yeah, that would be a really good thing to actually have in vMix, wouldn't it, Martin? Because then you can't forget to launch it. But I often think with NDI, there's an awful lot that you can do outside of vMix, and I worry too much about too many features going into actual vMix itself and overloading it. But yeah, that's one thing I think that could definitely go in. While we're on the subject of NDI, have you done anything more with NDI since we last spoke to you?
Not that much more. I'm just trying to update everything to NDI 3, which does have a few little quirks in it at the moment, which is, I guess, why it's not officially released. But NDI audio is a subject that I think is actually misunderstood by virtually everyone who develops software. And in fact, I've just been writing to NewTek today, having had a chat with them at IBC, about the fact that virtually every piece of software, apart from their own, doesn't support the standards as they should be supported. NewTek support SMPTE NAB standard. At the moment, they don't support EBU. And virtually everyone else, and that includes OBS, VidBlaster, vMix, MediaLux, all get it wrong, basically. So you might see some changes.
Well, I mean, all changes for the good. So yeah, that's what we do. Fantastic.
Particularly if it starts to work correctly.
What they're doing at the moment is failing to recognize the difference between the reference level that's defined in NDI, which is basically 0 VU, and the fact that in broadcasting terms, you actually peak much higher than the reference level. You don't peak to the reference level. The reference level is a point that's normally, in conventional digital audio, it's either -18 dBFS for EBU audio, and it's -20 in America, and you then peak higher than that. But most of the software seems to think that reference level is the peak level, and it doesn't go any higher. So apart from NewTek software, if you run something like NewTek's Connect and you plug an HDMI input into their Connect software, you'll find the levels come out much higher than every other bit of NDI audio generating software out there.
Martin Kinney here. Do you happen to know the frequency range of that NDI audio supports, and is it different than other network kinds of ways of transmitting audio? Can we get high fidelity, in other words?
I don't see any reason why you wouldn't get high fidelity. I haven't seen a specification that actually limits the frequency, so one would have to assume that it's going to be, you know, kind of DC to 20 kilohertz or more. And because it's floating point, it's got a huge dynamic range. It's got a much bigger dynamic range than most digital audio. If anything, it is like analog audio. It is like a piece of wire with a huge dynamic range. Unlike analog audio, there's no kind of set point where you operate, which is why consumer audio equipment runs at a much lower level, because it's cheaper to build amplifiers that work at a lower voltage, and professional equipment works at a much higher level. But anyone really can just pick a point and choose to operate. Whereas with digital, it's defined by the fact, well, I say digital, I mean integer digital, which is what most digital audio is, either 16-bit or 24-bit. When you hit the maximum number of bits, that's it. It clips. But in analog audio, a piece of wire doesn't clip. An amplifier might clip, but the wire doesn't clip. The transmission medium doesn't clip. And NDI is just like a piece of wire. It uses floating point audio, huge dynamic range. It doesn't clip. But as a developer, you have to choose what point you translate between your conventional digital audio and the floating point. And NewTek have defined that in terms that broadcast engineers understand. But unfortunately, most software developers aren't broadcast audio engineers, so they don't understand. And they've I mean, it's not terribly well worded in the NDI documentation, so I can understand how people get it wrong. But there is a bit of scope for trying to even all that out in future.
Yeah, it's an amazing system, isn't it? NDI. It's very well thought out, and we certainly look forward to seeing how that progresses. Is the video floating point as well, or is that asking too much? No,
don't think so.
No. Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Martin. What I'd like to do now is just to give everybody in the room a chance. So if Merle, I assume you said what you wanted to say with the news, or do you want to? Is there something you want to add?
No, just quickly, I would like to thank everyone, and I meant to do it a while ago, but you know how it is when you get old. I wanted to thank anyone and everyone that's had anything to do with the show, especially Tom Sinclair, who makes it all possible. And you know, we've had a lot of good people come in and do some really good things. So thanks a million, and we'll go ahead. I guess I'll just pass it over to Tommy.
Okay. While I'm sitting here, I'm noticing the difference in brain cells in this group. You've got me down at the very, very low end, and you've got Martin K up at the top end, and I'm just amazed that all of this is going on with so many different types of people involved. When I first came on or snuck on to the show, I expected at any time, and this is the absolute truth, I expected at any time to be asked not to come back, because I brought nothing to the show except questions. And, you know, I mean, I have appreciated you guys letting me stay and hang around, because I can't answer most of these questions. A lot of the stuff you're talking about is so over my head that, you know, I could probably build a bomb or an atomic bomb easier than what you're talking about. But I just want you to know I thank you for letting me hang around, and this show has done so much for a lot of people to learn, just like me, the dummies, how to live stream and actually get some confidence in doing live streaming.
Tommy, while you have the floor, did you want to elaborate on anything that Martin K had talked about there?
Yeah, I can do indoor. Whoa, you're talking about for the bathroom? No. No, I still got a path out back. But that's because I don't trust that newfangled thing sitting in there. I mean, it could swallow me up or something. So no, I'm sticking with the path. No,
but Tommy, you just have to remember.
I do want to thank you guys all for just so many great ideas, and I don't know how to put it in smart language, so just thank you. Oh, I do have a comment. Yeah, I know, Dave. Yesterday and day before yesterday, I watched a horrific event. It was the Hurricane Nate bearing down on Tom Sinclair. the wind was really bad. The trees, although they were hardly moving, I was sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for that hurricane to hit. And I don't know, I was so entranced with that I guess I nodded off. But I woke up and I realized I had been asleep a while because my keyboard was imprinted on my forehead. But once I got up and got to watching, I realized I had missed Tom Sinclair braving the weather to walk his NDI compatible dog, Rudy or Ralph or Ronnie or whatever his name is. And I'm hoping somebody captured that for me because I really wanted to see that. And that's all I'll say, and I'm gone.
Do you want to come back on that one, Tom?
Well, you know, we were actually hoping for a pretty big storm. You know, a storm that would show all sorts of awful destruction and things flying through the air, and what we got was a light breeze. I mean, it was so bad that I had to go out to the internet and download some storm audio in order to get the sound effects right. I mean, let's see if I can find it and share it with you guys now.
It did make the drizzle much more dramatic.
Yeah,
it was very effective, I have to say.
Yeah, here we go.
It's very quiet.
We're not hearing it, Tom.
Tom, if you lift your leg just a bit. That's Tech Talk with Tommy.
Tom, don't play that music because I'm afraid I'll have flashbacks.
Anyway, we tried to make it exciting, but you know, it was not at all exciting. Although I will say, you know, one of the cool things about doing something like that is we had some 12,000 folks that popped into the page and about 8,000 views on Facebook. So it was a momentous non-event. At least, you know, in the numbers I'm used to dealing with. But one of the things it did teach me was that there is an opportunity. I mean, when you're looking to gain an audience, there are opportunities like that where, you know, if I've got 8,000 people that are going to tune in at some point, if only 1% of those are really interested in live streaming, you know, 1% of 8,000 is 80. And, you know, 80 people might be the number of people that are watching this show right now. So to be able to build an audience, you know, use every opportunity you can to throw your message out there to tons of people, because you never know who you might get. I think the Eastern Shore Broadcasting Facebook page gained about 50 likes during the storm, of people who said, "Oh, I didn't know there was an Eastern Shore Broadcasting. I'm going to like this so I can see if they do some other cool stuff in the future." So I would say, you know, take advantage of every crisis. You know,
so
there's
what is
an
the
opportunity.
next potential disaster that you're looking forward to?
Well, you know, we're almost out of hurricane season. We do have an election down here in Alabama coming up in December for senator, so that could provide some disastrous results.
So, Tom, what you did was pull a Geraldo Rivera opening Al Capone's vault.
Yeah, but neither of us knew.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Yeah, and Geraldo got, you know, lots of notoriety for that. I mean, although some of it was just that he's an idiot. But suffice to say, you know, and I got some great comments from people that said, you know, how are you doing this? What kind of camera are you using? How do you keep making the shot move? How are you able to overlay the radar? You know, how did you get a live feed of the wind speed? And so I was able to kind of unpack some of that stuff and help folks understand if they wanted to do those kinds of things, how they could get that. So that was kind of fun. It was a lot of fun. And it was a boring storm, so at least we got to do some tech stuff. We didn't lose power. We didn't lose internet. I mean, it was, oh well.
Well, Lauren and I were at a friend's house having dinner, and I was checking in every once in a while on my mobile phone. And just to be able to be sitting around and someone saying, well, you know, how is Tom doing in the storm? And I'm showing him the live feed, and he's, you know, I'm explaining to him about the PTZ cameras and things like that. And the fact that we have a device sitting in our pocket that lets us connect is really pretty impressive.
It is. It is. I was talking with somebody the other day that does a lot of, well, Dave knows. Charlie Helms does a lot of high school football. And the majority of the viewers are now watching on an iPad or smaller device. And we're talking tens of thousands of viewers.
This is an amazing change, isn't it, in the way people do things. It's amazing.
And balance that with, you know, we're talking about people watching on smaller and smaller devices, but what are we hearing now is the next big thing in live streaming? 4K, which doesn't go along with that at all. You know, what's 4K video going to look like on a phone? Well, it's going to look just like 720p is what it's going to look like. It's probably going to look just like 480p is what it's going to look like. So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of balances out. You know, yes, anybody wants to do 4K, but when Alan's sitting around the dinner table watching a hurricane on his phone, he doesn't care about 4K. He just wants to see what's going on. And
unless they come out with a holographic phone to where, like Princess Leia and Star Wars type thing, to where your 4K will just blast that right out there at you with great graphics, but it'll be in the air.
Well, Tommy's looking forward to the 4K women's volleyball, so, you know, he wants to make sure that the stitching on the volleyball is regulation.
They have that?
I hope our holographic view is better than the Star Wars Princess Leia thing. That was really pathetic, considering how far in the future from us they were supposed to be.
I agree.
That would be virtual reality 360 and not 4K though.
Yeah. But it may be an indication of how difficult it is to implement. But that said, Tom, I completely agree. I mean, more and more people are watching on mobile devices. I even find myself using my new phone that I got recently from my new job more than ever before. And people who know me know that I'm not afraid to pick up a gadget and start using it, but they were just so slow and inconvenient, and and I spent most of my daytime awake in front of a computer, so why would I use a smartphone? I have laptops everywhere. I think I have about 20 laptops around the apartment. I don't have difficulties finding a computer, but I have to say that I find myself using this one more and more because this one actually works. The technology is now at a level where it's quick enough, connected enough, the software is reliable enough. It works with most things that I'm actually want to use it for. So I find myself using it more and more. Why not watch? I watch YouTube videos on it on a daily basis. So the urge to move into 4K becomes more and more ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. I spend most of my online time either on an iPad or an iPad mini, and one lives right next to my bed, and it's just much easier to deal with. I mean, if you got an 8211 AC connection, you've got a fast wireless connection. You're really being bound by your internet service provider more than your internal networking, and YouTube and such looks great on these devices.
My cell phone is so old that I have to hand crank to get the operator.
And that, gentlemen, is a perfect time to take a break to Dave's This Week in Tech history. Don't you think?
It would be, actually, wouldn't it? Are you there, Dave?
What's the line? Dave's not here. He went to get the stuff.
And I pitched it perfectly, and then he leaves.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just noticed he left after I mentioned it, but not to worry. What it does do is there's an opportunity to move around to the next person. Oh, well, in fact, before I do that, I'd just like to say thank you to Tommy for all your humour over the episodes that we've been doing over the last year. It's really made a big difference to this show. Being a completely technical subject could be a bit dry, and I think it's great, that we have that bit of humour with you in the show. So,
and I want to add on top of that, Tommy. On average, we are still a bunch of streaming idiots.
Was he trying to be funny?
I'd also like to thank people in the chat room for your kind comments and congratulations, etc. Thank you very much for that. I am actually watching the comments going by, but we've had a lot going on, so we've not mentioned anything yet. But if anybody does see anything in the chat that they want to mention, then please do. I'd like to move around, if I may. I think just briefly to Martin K. Hopefully, Martin, you've seen some improvements. This is a dangerous question for me to ask because you might just say no to this. But hopefully we've improved a little bit over the years or over the last few months, and listened to some of what you've said. Taking some of your advice to heart. Do you think that it's having any impact?
Firstly, I have to confess I haven't seen many shows recently. Work and other things. So, did you have anything in mind specifically?
No, not particularly, really. Just in general. No. That was a dangerous question to ask, actually.
Yeah, I'll have to watch more carefully. I don't think I'm qualified at the moment to make a decent appraisal. So.
I'm certainly not asking for any appraisal of my current image because I'm just using a webcam and not in front of my controller. I'm not actually in the studio, so but hopefully my audio has been a little improved on what it has been in the past. But yeah, I think generally everybody's moved up quite a bit over the past year as we sort of learned the ins and outs of getting it to work reasonably well. And so hopefully, if the people who are watching, it's easier to listen to us and hopefully easier to look at us as well. That's a bit questionable as well. Anyway, Martin, perhaps I should take you off the hook and move around to Alan.
I don't know. Merle was just giving you the finger. He was going like this.
Oh, was he? I didn't see it. Sorry.
I was just curious if Tom would bless us with what he's going to have on the show Wednesday.
Oh, shill.
The shill. Well, Merle, thank you very much. I mean, golly, how could you think of something like that to invite me other than the fact that I put a blatant plug in the chat here for somebody to ask me about question? That's right. No, one of the things that's gotten a lot of discussion lately has been pay-per-view. And Jan is going to crumple some papers in the background here. Pay-per-view is a great opportunity for folks to monetize certain kinds of streams. And I've got a guest coming on Wednesday, Chris Granner from Rivet, who is going to talk about that. Rivet is a kind of a Swiss Army knife of pay-per-view. That is, he'll participate with you in pay-per-view at whatever level you really are interested in participating. He'll do the whole thing. He'll do different parts. He'll set up a paywall so that you can stream to your regular provider, those kinds of things. So I think it's going to be an interesting show. But I'd like to see the discussion continue beyond the show, because pay-per-view, I think, represents a unique opportunity for live streamers to, well, let me rephrase that. There's some of us that are live streaming as professional hobbies. That is, we don't really do it as our full-time job, but we do take money for it. So we have costs and we have revenue. And then there are those of us that live stream as a full-time profession, and that's the only way we eat. And then there are some of us that do it as a profession, but we also have a regular job in addition to that. And then there are those of us that just do it for fun, and we don't really worry about the cost because we're independently wealthy like Tommy. So, but for those of you that are kind of in that area where you need to have some sort of revenue coming in, depending on what your subject matter is, it very well may be a good opportunity to do a pay-per-view. And that's the discussion that I think we're going to be continuing on Wednesday's show, and that's Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time at streamingidiots.com, but also is an ongoing discussion in the Streaming Idiots Facebook group. And so for those of you that are Facebook fans, I would encourage you to take a look at the Facebook group. We're up over 1,000 members, which Jan, when he and Marie started this group, golly, less than a year ago, the anticipation was that we might get 50 people that shared a common interest and would want to join the group, and we might actually get somebody that would raise a topic for discussion once a week or so. Instead, we have 1,000 folks with some great topics that are going on practically 24/7, and it's a real thrill to be a part of that. But pay-per-view has been a big part of that too. A lot of people with questions about pay-per-view, a lot of people with solutions on it. So looking forward to this coming Wednesday's show, where Chris is going to come in and talk about the different kind of pay-per-view services that his company offers. But in addition to that, it's the kind of thing that, if his company offers these 5 different services, then that means there are other companies out there that offer those 5 different services, and also that some of those 5 different services, if not all of them, can be do-it-yourself kind of services. And so those of us that are interested in the subject of getting paid might find not that Chris's solution is going to be perfect for us, but that there might be an element to what he's talking about that we can snatch out, we can steal. Merle, all of my great ideas I've stolen from you and Giles. Well, some of them I got from Martin, but most of them from you and Giles. And so there's nothing new under the sun. So let's take what Chris is working on, pull out the good stuff from it, and learn how we can do pay-per-view either better or do it for the first time. I had an opportunity about 2 years ago to do a national women's soccer event. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing. The venue in Orlando suddenly couldn't host the event, and they brought it to Pensacola, Florida, about 45 miles to the east of us. And the folks over there knew that I did live streaming soccer, so they invited me to come in and do it. One team was from Washington State. One team was from Texas. One team was, I think, from Michigan. And then there was the home team from Pensacola. And so for the folks that were in those 3 locales that weren't local to us, a lot of those couldn't travel, but they were highly motivated fans. They were highly motivated enough to buy a package for $24 for the weekend, or I think it was $15 per game to watch. And we made, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 in the weekend, enough to cover all of our costs and have a good chunk left over, so that I could take Kenny out to dinner at StreamCon. So that was a good thing. So I'm just saying, if you're doing live streaming, opportunities are going to come your way to do these kind of things, and it's nice to already know in advance, yes, I can do pay-per-view if I'm ever asked to. I've got tools in my toolbox that I can use to solve this problem, whatever it is in the future. somebody's going to come to you and say, I've discovered that there's this whole world out there called wood turners, and I want to market to that group and do pay-per-view to that group. Well, I'd tell them, Alan's already got that covered, but there may be another kind of project, another kind of subject, another kind of venue that they can work with. Anyway, just come. So day after tomorrow, Wednesday afternoon at 3:00 Eastern, we're going to be talking about pay-per-view, and there might be somebody out there that might enjoy it. Thank you, Earl. Merle.
Sounds good.
Sounds excellent, Tom. I shall certainly be there to watch that. Most interesting. It's a tricky subject sometimes, isn't it, with how do you fund your programs, and you just have to be open to all the possibilities, I think. So, excellent. Right, we're getting low on time. In fact, we're slightly overrunning. So what I'd like to do, Martin, Steed, are you in a quiet enough environment to talk to us at the moment?
I can be now. I'm just going to head outside.
I just wondered if you wanted to add any comment as we were coming around to you in the chat.
Just really that there's one person of the team that's missing here today, and that's Rudy. And he's been an integral part of what we've done. Ideas, Streamfest. Without Rudy, we'd have been in a right pickle. And he's not here today, which is a shame. So I just wanted to make sure that he had. I know he's been mentioned before, but he really has been. Since he joined, he came in. He was really quiet, and he's just been behind a lot of the stuff that's gone on. A lot of the ideas that I've had for things, I've bounced off Rudy and yourself, of course, Giles, and the work that he's put into the actual producer pack is just off the scale. Also with yourself, Giles. So I'm sure he's watching tonight. It's a shame that he was unable to come in, for the show. But yeah, he's a big integral part.
I agree with what you're saying about Rudy, and I think we should all give him a big hand.
Yeah, Giles, I wanted to jump in there too. I've been thinking about Rudy and wishing he could join us tonight, and I've just watched Rudy. Rudy's become a great host. He covered for you a few weeks ago, and of course, as Martin mentioned with the Streamfest stuff. Wow! And Rudy is putting out some very interesting tutorials too. He's a very good writer. So I'm just continue to be amazed with all the talents with everyone in this group, and Rudy is just one who I've really enjoyed having on here as well. And I wish he could have joined us tonight.
Yeah, would have been great if he could have joined us this evening, and is certainly conspicuous by his absence. So, yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Martin.
And just one other thing, I'd like to mention it. You're asking about some of the memorable times that we've had on this show. I've had a couple. I've been in some situations that, yeah, I've been a little bit. I've had my collar almost felt a few times by security when I was in a location I shouldn't really have been in, which was interesting. That was really interesting, and yeah, being visited partway through my stream by the travelers. That was also another interesting situation to be in. So. Yeah, there's nothing like living on the edge. It's great fun. Anyway, that's enough from me. Back to you, Giles.
Yeah, I think we'll have to do some shows where we pick out one or two things like that. Just revisit those situations, because you forget, don't you, over the year. I mean, I've watched 35 episodes or so all the way through, and I've still not got to that one. And that's Saturday morning. Just to try and remind myself what was going on, and yeah, unbelievable. So yeah, well done, Martin, for all the places you get to, and we look forward to some more interesting places this year. I'm sure you've got things up your sleeve.
There's more. There is more coming. Yeah, the ice cream run's been done now, but there will be some other ones.
Giles, I know you're running a little low on time, but I did want to tell you real quickly a couple very impressive ones when I first started to join you all. One was the episode when vMix Call was just being introduced. And this group loaded up vMix Call, and there were some issues with some of the technical side of vMix Call. And I think it was actually this bunch of folks who maybe even discovered that there was a little bit of a trick there. And I think, Jan, you put it together. I believe you put out the call back to Martin Sinclair, and actually got that resolved for all the world with the vMix Call. So thank you, Jan. That was an amazing one. And the other one that really stuck with me was one time when Giles handed off the entire stream to Jan, took the stream down and fired it back up because Jan had very, very good bandwidth. I was blown away, and still I just trying to shake my head that was done. So thank you all for that part of it. Those were good times.
That is what I did see, and yeah, we had some fun, Jan, or Jan had way too much fun, getting us all to send green screen images on the vMix calls. Do you remember that, Jan? I think we're getting any audio from Jan that I can see by the look on his face.
Sorry, I muted myself just to not being too annoying. Yeah, I remember, and I also remember the 50-foot Martin. That was fun. But yeah, we are blessed here in the southern part of Sweden to have very cheap, very fast internet. So yeah, that makes a lot of things much easier.
It was definitely good fun, that one. That is one we are definitely going to be revisiting, just because it was a very fun one.
Yeah, just to put a reference to it, Tom and Tommy, the local church I visited recently to do some streaming for a political party, they had a gigabit internet. I don't know what they're using it for, but they had a gigabit. I had a 978 megabit upstream with a latency to the nearest speed test server of less than 2 milliseconds.
That's absolutely amazing. Greetings to Amnon in the chat. Greetings to everybody in the chat. And Brian Daly. Greetings, Brian. I'm glad you've come along. You were one of our early guests on the show, so great to have you there. Well, we've seriously overrun, so unfortunately we're going to have to get Dave in on the post show. But I'd just like to thank everybody for coming and joining us this evening and sort of reminiscing about the first show. It's been most interesting. I found it most interesting going back through the early episodes myself. I was quite pleasantly surprised. So there's actually lots of good information in those early episodes, and a lot of them actually haven't had that many views. So I've rearranged the YouTube list to list them in date order rather than reverse date order. So if you they're only a year old, some of those programs, so most of the information is pretty relevant still. If you're just starting out with vMix or whatever, you may find them helpful. And of course, Tom Sinclair has a huge library of videos as well, which I'm sure he'll be very happy if you go and have a look at. Yeah, do go and have a look at those. Like I say, I was quite surprised by some of them. Okay, so thank you everybody in the chat room. Just as you do a quick wave, we will be coming back for a post show, so if you're watching us live, please do stick around. If you like what we're doing, please like and share, tell people about what we're doing, please tell people about what Tom Sinclair is doing, and we will see you all again next Monday or Wednesday for Tom Sinclair's show. But from me and everybody here, good night. And we're out, to quote Tom Sinclair. Marvellous. Thank you very much, everybody. I think that was really good. There's various questions going on in the chat room, I see. So if anybody wants to call in, please feel free. There's that blue button at the top of the chat room. If you'd like to call in, you're most welcome. We'll probably be here on the air for, let's see, what time is it now? Yeah, we'll probably be here for maybe half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that. And then we'll take the live stream down. And if you don't want to come in on the live show, you can still come in on the Zoom call afterwards. I mean, this Zoom room is often busy till, you know, for several hours after the show. So there's all sorts of interesting conversation going on. And anybody's most welcome to give us a call. So you can either call in now and appear live, or afterwards if you don't want to go on the main program. Right. Would anybody like the microphone?
Yes, I would. One of the things that people may not realize is that the same equipment that you would use for live streaming can be used for recording. And so when Lauren and I were at the American Association of Woodturners Symposium this past June, I participated, actually I led, but I also participated in a second panel discussion. And so at the venue, I had my notebook computer and a couple of webcams and a Magewell HDMI to USB 3 adapter where I took the room's camera, the venue's camcorder, and instead of taking that camcorder going out to the monitor, I ingested it. It was the first time I brought in each of the panel discussions, I brought in remote panelists. So I wasn't streaming out to the internet, but I was using vMix Call for the first time to let people that could not participate in person actually participate. And so what I've got behind me here, I'll just move me out of the way. What I've got here is just a few moments of what this looked like. And I put the titles in afterwards, but I was introducing people. So this is just a webcam that I should have moved closer. This was, this is the no good deed goes unpunished. This was the volunteer cameraman in the room who hadn't figured out yet how to turn off the face tracking boxes. He eventually figured out how to do that. But you'll see how I was mixing the picture-in-picture people in the room with the cameras. I was showing still pictures that some of the panelists had brought with them. This was a close-up of the Magewell adapter. This was a fellow who was supposed to be in Hawaii. It turns out he was in Nebraska, and he was a panelist because he was the first. He was one of the first people to receive a remote wood turning demo, but he also does wood turning demos to a group in Argentina, and so it was really cool having him in. Although we did have a little bit of an echo I had to deal with. We had people in the audience. The year before this, I did a presentation on why people should consider doing remote demos. And this year was all about people who are doing it. So Joanne here had just started doing remote demonstrations, and she was having mostly problems with bandwidth up in Canada where she is. Yeah, I talk with my hands, obviously. And it was very nice. This fellow here was the first person that I had ever done a remote demo for his group, and it was very, very well received because people had a lot of good comments and questions. And we went on from this here also to do another panel discussion on wood turners with physical limitations. So again, we weren't using the equipment to stream video live to an audience, but the ability to record this stuff and then do some basic editing, very minor editing, and make it available now as video on demand via YouTube or Vimeo. It's exactly the same setup without the streaming aspect of it. So mastering these techniques can be very, very important, whether or not you ever want to do live streaming.
That was very good, Alan. It just shows the power of live streaming beyond just doing television programs, doesn't it? It's a very powerful learning tool, I think, isn't it? Okay, anybody else? Oh, I see Tommy's found his Kazi picture. Excellent. It's not got walls on that one, but excellent. Were you simulcasting tonight, Tom? I never thought to ask. I think I saw an email come up saying something about hurricanes in my inbox.
Sorry, let me unmute myself since it doesn't happen automatically. Yeah, we're simulcasting right now to Streaming Idiots, and mostly directing folks to come to the chat room over here. So I think a couple people have popped in, and we did simulcast Friday night. No, I guess it was Saturday night for the hurricane. Yeah, we went to Facebook and YouTube for that. That was pretty fun. Pretty fun.
Excellent, excellent. I see we've been joined by the New Zealand contingent. Good evening. Well, at least I assume we have. Is that Chris there? You got no audio, Chris. It's our default policy of muting everybody.
Hello.
Greetings.
Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just thought I'd come in along and watch for a little. I've got a couple of questions, but I'll let the chat go for a bit first.
Oh, I think just pipe up, Chris. It's good to have you along. And anybody else watching, you're welcome to do what Chris is doing. Please do give us a call. Go ahead, Chris.
What I'm curious about is we've been using a capture card, which has got audio, but we're finding it inadequate. And looking at you at the moment, I see straight in front of you, you got your Zoom 16. Was that a Zoom 16R in front of you?
Yes, yeah, it is.
What I was talking with my son about it, who, as you saw in the in some of the videos I posted, is the main protagonist with a lot of the work I do. We've been talking about audio capturing for USB, and one of the things he was talking about was your device there. So my understanding is that sends 8 channels of audio into your computer.
Yes, it's an 8-channel sound card when you use it in that mode. It's also a recording studio in a box, so I don't know how the price compares with something like the Behringer 404. Tom would probably be able to advise you on that. But that's a popular device. How many channels do you actually need to bring in, Chris?
Well, potentially we're looking at like around about 4 channels, but if you allow for expansion, we might be using twice that for some events. So, but mostly I think 4 would probably be the normal maximum.
Are you going to be using a mixing desk as well with it?
Well, this is one of the things I'm trying to clarify. Yes. One of the things my son was looking at was an 8-channel in and 8-channel out box that I think Behringer do. And I was trying to work out which way was the better way of going. I like the device you've got in front of you because you can instantly go and grab a channel and pull it down instantly without having to open menus and things.
One thing that you might want to consider, if portability is at all a concern, is I've used a Zoom H6, which is a portable field recorder. And when you connect it up, you can put it either so that it outputs a stereo signal or that it outputs individual channels. It's got 4 XLR combo jacks, and you can take off the detachable microphone and put another 2 XLR jacks in, although those 2 cannot be powered. But the point is that if you had, say, a couple of dynamic microphones and 4 condenser microphones, that gives you a 6-channel battery-powered controller with individual volume knobs. So it is just something to consider in your mix.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, my only thought was if you're coming in from a mixer, you may only need 2 channels from the mixer into the production, and therefore if you have something like a
what we're finding is we're needing to do post-production, and we're needing to be able to remix the audio some stages, or separate some of the audio off for different applications, which is why we're needing to have the number of channels brought in. As well as that, for example, we have on our camera 1, we're looking at this season putting 2 shotguns on camera 1, which is about 100 meters away from our control room, and then you bringing them in over SDI and separating them off before they go into our equipment, and allowing us to remix it before it goes into the equipment. And so what ultimately we'd be doing is going in through a desk like your one there, which is why we're asking about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this one will bring 8 channels in, but it's only stereo out. But that, I don't think that would be an issue for what you're talking about, because you would get the 8 separate channels in your video editor, which is presumably what you need. So that could work for you. There is also an 8-channel version of the Behringer. I'm not sure. Maybe Tom would know whether. I don't know whether you just get stereo out on that, or whether you get 8 channels out as well on that one, Tom. I'm not sure that's really necessary for Chris, but.
I'm sorry, Giles. Which device is that?
It would be the 8-channel version of the Behringer 404.
Yeah, I think it's 8 channels. 8 channels in, 8 channels out.
Yeah. So it's just the spec there is. I don't know whether that's actually any use to you, Chris, to be able to have 8 channels out, but because you're going to be doing all your mixing in the. All I would say about, I mean, this will run on batteries and USB, so it's very portable. Like I was saying about the H6, and the controls on here are MIDI mappable in Zoom, so I can use the faders on here to control the faders in vMix.
Giles, not much of those faders, are they?
Giles, I just need a little clarification, Giles. On your Zoom box that you have, the USB out, is that just is that a stereo send, or are you getting actually digital outs for each of the channels that you're able to import into
I'm getting 8 mono channels, one for each.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Or you can bring them as pairs if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the headphone on that device, when you listen to headphones that's got a stereo, is that off the computer or is that off the desk?
The way I'm using it, you can monitor the inputs of it, but they're not mixed. It's pre-faders with the monitor out on this one. Really, to get the 8 channels of audio, you have to plug it into a computer and receive them that way. So I can hear myself speaking on my headphones this evening. I'm actually using a mixer in conjunction with it. And because I only really need to bring in 2 channels. So for my use, it's a different use case to yours, but it would enable you to bring 8 channels in. The monitoring, you can either monitor it through vMix if the delay isn't an issue, or you should be able to pick up a live feed off the outputs at the back. But they're pre-fader, as I say, so you just hear them all.
Right, so they're mainly just an input one. So that was something I wanted to clarify. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and Giles, you can record, if I recall correctly, that's I think an R8. You can record locally on that device as well as send it into the computer. Is that correct? Because on the Zoom H6, it's either you're recording on the device or you're using it as an audio interface. So I don't think you can do both. Although I didn't try it with the ASIO driver with the 4 channels or 6 channels going out.
The R8 is different. The R16, which I'm using here, is it's one or the other. You either use it as a multi-track recording device, like a recording studio, and it gives you 16 tracks, but you can only record 8 at a time. Or you can have live 8 tracks going into your computer, in this case vMix, but it can be a digital audio workstation if you do music, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's one or the other. It doesn't do both simultaneously.
Okay, thank you.
No, when I press the buttons in this mode, it's actually sending messages to vMix. I can actually program all the buttons to do whatever I want them to do, and the only ones I do use are the faders. But yeah, so it goes into a kind of control surface mode when you use it as a sound interface. Anyway, hope that's helpful, Chris.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for that. Clarified a lot of things.
I'll just add, if you're looking for a device which is simply an input device and you need quite a lot of channels and a real-time monitor mixer, Tascam do a box a bit like the Behringer ones, called a 16 by 8. So it's got 16 inputs, of which 8 are mic inputs and 8 are line inputs. And it's also got 8 outputs. But what it's also got built in that I don't think the other ones do is that it's got a DSP-based hardware mixer that lets you do a monitor mix that combines any of the inputs with playback coming back from the computer. So you can do what Giles is doing there, be able to hear both the audio coming from the computer, from Zoom, and to hear his own microphone mixed together and hear it in his headphones. You can do all that within the mixer, within that Tascam box. It doesn't record, it's just an interface, but it is a combined interface and mixer, albeit a software mixer.
Thank you, Martin.
That sounds like a pretty good device, actually, Martin. When I should just add, I didn't buy this to work with vMix. I bought this before I had vMix. It just happens to work with it, but that Tascam sounds like a really good bit of kit.
It's actually quite good value for money, because I thought I ought to get one of these ASIO devices to explore vMix's multi-channel audio input capability. And I looked at the Behringer one, and I probably would have bought that 4-channel one, but it seemed to be rather scarce at dealers in the UK at the time. So I was looking around to see what else existed. And I found this Tascam one, which was less than twice the price, and it had more than double the channels altogether, plus the built-in mixer. So, yeah.
So what was that model again?
I think it's a US 16X8, so 16 by 8.
Okay, Vinus is making an interesting comment in the chat as well. I don't know if you've come across these ultralight AVB boxes, Martin. I'm not familiar with those.
Nope. Oh, Mark of the Unicorn.
This is the one you're looking for, Martin?
That is the exact one I've got, yeah.
Okay, so what I will do, Jan, if you leave that there for a second, I will make you the spotlighted video and put that out on the live stream, which I'm doing now. Oops, it's just disappeared. Yeah, that's it. The 16 by 8 that Martin was just talking about there. Yeah, it looks like an interesting device.
Yeah, I think there's some screenshots of what the built-in mixer looks like. And it's quite a good mixer. It's got EQ, it's got compression. So it's, as a monitor mixer, it works very well.
Yeah, that's a nice bit of kit. Yeah, totally programmable, isn't it?
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Very interesting, as they used to say. I think that was Ronan Martin's laughing, wasn't it? Used to say that.
Going back in time.
I've only ever seen brief clips of it, but I had reels and reels and reels of tape that somebody had recorded off the television, just the audio soundtrack of it, at 1 7/8 inches per second, which was terribly muffled sounding. And then they were 1,800-foot reels, you know. That's 7 hours on a tape or something stupid, but that's where I recognise that from.
How much is that on the market?
In the UK, it was just over £200 I got it for. So what's that? Getting on for $300.
$300 US.
A bit under, yeah.
Brian has made a comment. I'm just trying to get my head around. I found using a separate mixer and using switching software, especially where graphics are involved, very difficult to manage. He now brings in all his audio through the cameras, which will give me the best quality recording on the camera, if ever required for post-production work later. Well, that's true. Yeah, that's a way around the problem of separate channels. Switching software has a separate monitor from each camera and also separate output to stream. Works very well when only one person is monitoring and switching the output to stream. Interesting, Brian. Yeah, good thought. I suppose the only difficulty with that is that you have to then go and sync everything up in post-production, don't you, if it's all on separate cameras, but that's fairly easy these days with the likes of Premiere. Are you off, Tommy? Oh, Kenny's off, are you?
No, Tom is off. Tom is waving.
Yep,
Sorry,
I'm
Tom.
leaving you guys.
Tom, you're allowed to talk.
Thanks for joining me tonight, Tom.
What a treat for me. Thank you for inviting me. Happy first anniversary and many, many more to come.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And as you said, Tom, it came as a surprise that Streaming Idiots now passed 1,000 members. I didn't see that coming.
There's more idiots out there than you know.
Exactly.
True that.
Exactly.
Guys, if Tom is leaving, then I guess I'm going to too, because he's the only reason I came on. So I'm going to have to go and get my meds and take a nap and all that good stuff, yo. We really energetic guys do that from time to time. So happy birthday to all you guys. I mean, it's been a trip for me. I've been a blast. I have enjoyed every one that I can be on. So goodbye.
Fantastic. We hope you'll
Good
be on
night.
many. Good night. And I think this might be an opportune moment to go off the air as well. And if anybody wants to call in after we've gone off the air.
And my thanks to those of you that are watching us on Facebook and YouTube. It was kind of fun to have the guys in. It's their first anniversary of World of Live Streaming. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern for Streaming Idiots and a great discussion on pay-per-view. So, toodles.